successful and of course also failed in digitalization, we have set up this series, which is SME Launchpad webinar series, where we share all the playbooks on different topics to fuel your scaling in 2025. We also have another series, if you are following us, which is Rework in Action. For those who are more familiar with our platform, for our current clients and partners who wants to have a closer look and guidance on specific and particular use cases that we implement Rework. So back to our webinar. This is a very large topic. We have a lot to discuss and it's an open conversation as well, although that is on like Zoom webinar. But I'm not the only one who speak here. I don't want that to be our webinar vibe. So please drop your questions anytime into the Q&A session. You will see it below here. And we will try to tackle as many as we can. We also received some of your questions via your registration, and we sure will wait to it at the end. Now, as promised, there will be a tactical guide. Right after this webinar, there will be a lot of angle that we cannot tackle within 1 hour. So we will send the full guidebook that we have prepared for you with all the templates and samples. So you can start implement it or experiment it with your own business. So please stay through at the end. Don't worry about like screenshot, screen cap or anything. We will share with you at the end of the webinar. So let's dive in. All right, so on the screen, you will see our guidebook as well. And let me walk you through it. Let me make sure that you see my screen. All right, I hope it's okay now. Okay, so the context. The context is that we know that every business is getting like more and more pressure about operational efficiency, or basically just efficiency. When you become larger, the processes become rigid. Departments work in like silo, especially when it's grow bigger and bigger, and efficiencies got hit. Now, it's always been true, but there are certain things that like come into the picture, right? With like AI agent, as you see like in everywhere right now, Gen AI or low code, no code tools or cloud tools make the cost of not catching up or like not adopting these. It's not just about like inefficiency, it's about like irrelevant, it's about falling behind, like Nokia or Blockbuster, Kodak, etc. But also, and I believe a lot of people in this room today, you have looked into adopting new tech as well, and you know that it's not easy. Like the bigger or the more structured you are, it's even like harder for you to adopt. So tools are everywhere. Firstly, you can't find things that fit your purpose or your organization. Second is that plug them into legacy tech stack or operations like framework is very expensive or take a lot of work, or even worse, that like it's only become possible after you restructure like a lot of your operations, pay a very big bills, and after like 3 months or 6 months, you're still going around all the departments and explain like, this is not another dashboard, this is like a new tool, please like adopt it. So we see it like in a lot of like businesses, tech tool, digitalization, AI tools, very fancy, very inspirational, but when it's actually get implemented, most teams don't actually know how to measure it, whether or not we can see it's improve anything, or they get confused about how to handle the human AI interfaces or human tech tool interfaces, and they don't know how to make it work. So there are a lot of examples here. So that's why we want to go a little bit like earlier in the whole big picture, right? We want to introduce a way to look at it to set the foundation. And as you can see here on the screen, right, this is not the only answer for operations. This is not we don't claim that this is the right way or the most efficient way if you want to grow, if you want to adopt AI, etc., etc. But we have seen that this is the most effective way to set the foundation. It's clear, it provides clarity, it provides scalability, it provides measurability, a lot of things that I will illustrate and I will mention later in the presentation. So that's the context, right? So let's see the definition, what is exactly that we mean by service-oriented operations. So I love this topic. I can go on and on about that, and if I go a bit long about that, please give me a heads up, reward team and also the audience. But it's very techy, but very also ops focused. So you can see here that it's inspired by a term in technology or software development as well, which is service-oriented architecture, SOA. And this is not new in tech development at all. SOA is the way that design the system, IT system, where large monolithic applications are broken down into modular services and microservices that interact seamlessly. So there are a lot of words here that interesting that we brought this into our approach in ops design as well. So modular microservices or services, we will go deep into that. But basically, you know where's the origin. And later, when I demonstrate in our system on rework.com, you will see that. So firstly, this is also the principle, the philosophy that we develop the whole rework platform. Every app helps you manage certain services, and you can set up the service that it fits with your operations as well. So we hope that this, not only that we hope this catch up as a way to look into operations, but we also try to embed it into the way that we design our products so that it can help you manage your operations or your business easier. Let's look a little bit deeper into how it translates into operations, right? So in operations, in operating your operating model, right? So the way that we apply this principle and approach to ops design is that each workflow will be a service. Each person or department can be seen as service provider. So what exactly it is? So the characteristics are breaking down the large ops system into a well-defined service. So at its core, it view every work that we do is a part of a service where, and every department is a service provider. So whether it's like HR, IT, operation, finance, you provide certain services. So for example, marketing, they provide service that they generate demands or they generate leads. Once they can generate leads to different channels, they hand over it to the next team, which is sales team. Now, sales team provides certain services. For example, sales consultancy or business consultancy for the clients. And the output that they will deliver is the sales, is the deals. So those are the example. By that definition, defining services, it will help us to measure the effectiveness and continuously improve it. So all in all, like the design, the iteration, the improvement, and the overview, it will become very clear. So basically, in short, what you can remember from here is that well-defined responsibility, measurable outcomes, and explicit value flows or activities. Now let's go a little bit deeper in terms of like why this is matters. Like why do I have to care about like service-oriented operation, whereas like the current like the way of I look into operation is fine. So you know about the context that I mentioned earlier, but I will go deeper into like a certain angles, measurable, modular, and scalable. So first of all, the measurable part, what we always say with our client, not always, in certain cases, is that you can't optimize or improve what you can't measure. So if you care about efficiency here, anyone in the room join today because they care about efficiency of your business. This is something to look into, right? If you care about efficiency, you have to have a way to measure it. Now, with a lot of tools, with different like Tango processes, it's become harder and harder to measure the value or the efficiency. So what we learn from software development is a concept of I/O, input and output. Very simple to measure efficiency. You know what's go into the process and what comes out. So think of a machine. You put the raw material and the output is the finished product. And you measure the efficiency of the whole manufacturing by you measure the input and output. So the same logics apply to business operations. So that's why in our software, when we define a certain like services, we will ask you to define the input and output. The input can be time, resources, tasks, etc., and define the output. The output can be quality, can be quantitative metrics, etc. And then you will have all the data locked down for you to see on dashboard or report that how's the efficiency and also other angle, which is like value and outcomes look like. So the second aspect is modular. Modular sounds like a jargon, but it's actually really not. Imagine that is the service is the container. So you can have one or more than one processes packed into the service. And in this way, right, when it's modular, it allows organization to treat each service as a discrete, swappable, and improvable unit. So you can isolate, you can plug it to different team or to small team into a large team after you're done with the pilot. You can swap, you can test, you can scale parts independently like a Lego blocks of operations. So this, what does it bring? It will make your operation more agile. So it's not only for execution and changes, but also agile for adopting new tools or AI. Because for example, if you, for example, in your whole funnel, you define certain team deliver certain services, and one team, which is sales development representative, for example, in charge of cold calling or qualifying the first round of the customer. And now someone comes in and pitch you the AI tool to do that, to handle the leads like more effectively when you have like thousands of leads coming in. So if you already well define that service in your organization, you can measure the impact, you can measure the cost, you can measure everything under that service, right? And you can make the decision more rationally and data-driven in a data-driven way. Of course, that there will be like much more decision that you have to make when you adopt one tool, whether or not it work well with human, whether or not I look for like replace like a certain team or certain capabilities, etc. And that's a more like larger topic that we not discuss here. But the idea is that it's clear and it's measurable, and it's also modular for you to like change it up. So it make you agile, make your operation agile. And lastly, what does it bring? It brings scalability. And I believe that a lot of people, based on the registration form, a lot of people here in the room care about scalability for your business as well. So when it's measurable and modular, right, your organization becomes scalable by design. So rather than scaling departments or headcount, because you just receive you just hear a lot about like they are overloaded. You scale by replicating and improve the service units. So this allows faster onboarding, delegation, better coordination, efficiency, handling the growth without like the cost like bump up like so much, etc. And so that's basically like the keywords that I want to share with you about why this matters, because it's create the foundation, right? And of course, there are other benefits as well that we can see on the screen here. Is bring clarity and accountability, is bring new way of working, which is agile way of working to transform and improve, open to experiment, open to new change, and it's very clear and not having anyone step on other toes when you implement change. And lastly, it introduced new culture, new way, new language, organization-wide, which is value focus. You shift your focus from process, from execution into output or outcome. So it aligns people and cut noise. So if you want to, or someone from your underlying team propose a certain change, you can look it into like how it fit with the service map and whether or not it improve, whether or not it like work and it's good for the business. So by measure the value and the outcomes, right? So it's very clear. So that's it. That's is the overall like ideas of this framework. So we go through the what already, the what and the why, right? Let's go right into the how. How if we want to make the change, or if we want to adopt it, what exactly the toolkit that we can implement, and I will introduce shortly. But let me have the pause here. If you have any questions so far, feel free to drop it into our Q&A section. So the playbook. In this playbook, you will see multiple things that you can explore. Depends on how far along you are in the ops transformation or digitalization journey. Pick the one that fits you, but I will go briefly a few parts. So the first part is the service design. What is the guide? And how to design a single service. The second is that if I want to implement it ops-wide or think the whole ops in the new way of service-oriented, what is the design guide for it? The third thing is that if currently I have a big company that have certain way of operate, how I make the transition, where do I start? And the last thing is that what is the pitfalls, or what is a do and don't when you just start out the operational transformation or the change within your ops. So let's dive in real quick. So first, the service design, right? Let's go a little bit into it. So the core framework here for service, for a single service, is you can see like basically 3 layers here, right? Like the first layer is the people. The second layer is the service itself, and the last layer is the enablement. So to build a service-oriented operation, we build processes or we build our service into this key layer. The first one is people and places. Let's go into like a little bit deeper into the guide and the tips here. So here are the key step, right? And when you start with the first step of internal and external user, you will see that there is a key question that we recommend to ask, like who are we do this for? And our customer can be our external stakeholders or also our internal stakeholder. For example, like HR provide onboarding services for the employee. So they are the user of this service. Ask what do they need to capture top needs, challenges, desired outcome. And our tips here is context really matters. The time and the place of their needs, the complication and the constraint. For the second part, divide the service scope and the responsibility is basically about what values that we provide and who are the service owner. So in terms of divide scope or value, our tip is start with a verb. So it will shape your business. It will shape the service into the outcomes and not roles and only roles and responsibility. For the service owner, what we recommend is that ownership doesn't mean to have to do all the work. They only take accountability for the outcomes. In that way, you can define the team that own the service the best, and you can also empower them with enough authority to improve the service or look over the service. The last step is to design the service. And the last step of the design is basically design the service, ask about the inputs, outputs, processes, and there are certain guide here that you can see and you will later receive as well. But the fourth step we introduce here, which it's going to be a loop, is going to be iteration, which is feedback, KPI measurement. So firstly, determine what good look like in terms of metric. How is the good execution look like? And our tips, our recommendation is don't overcomplicate it. Later, we will go into the Q&A, and there are certain Q&As related to this as well. How do we know that we actually like do good and make it more efficient? So start with 1 or 2 meaningful metrics for that service and build it over time and make it easy for a user to give feedback. And that's the most important thing. So for example, if you define what angle that you define, let's say new employee onboarding service, what angle that is important, whether or not they feel welcome, whether or not is a time that they can actually be onboarded and then start to work, whether or not is the quality, what is the quality after they get onboarded, like go through the service. So depends on what you really care about in terms of that service. You put that as metric, just 1 or 2 meaningful one, and then you take feedback on that, and then you measure, and then you change it later. So real quick, in terms of like design service, in this pack, we provide a canvas, like 1-page template for you if you want to try with the one service in your operations. So basically this template is used as the quick way for you to try and to adopt this way of thinking. And this can be used in a workshop or within your team to define a service. It's basically a frame for you to set the shared understanding of the current state as well as the target state of your design. So here's what look like, and it's include all the elements that I mentioned before. What is the service name? What is the owner? Pain point and opportunities, which provide the context for the change, right? And then these are the service design part, which is core activities, inputs, and outputs. has the guiding questions here as well. Certain things that will help you adopt any tool or implement it easier, which is what are the tools, templates used in this service, and what are the success metric or the signal that you know that it worked well or it didn't work well. So let's go into the second section, right? So if you are not in a place of like looking into one service, but you want to like implement this in the whole ops, what would it look like? So the way from our experience, right? And we have implemented like 9,000 different projects. It's very different when you want to make like small change versus implement a company-wide project. So here's the 3-step to frame a rollout in a very strategic, testable way, and also efficiency, like save resources. The first one is strategize. You set up the scope, you set up the timeline, the purpose, the objective. Second is you go into the build or development cycle, which have design, build, deploy, measure. And this is for a certain unit that you want to build. And, in the agile way, they said that like, do it like piece by piece and scale it up, right? In operations, it's the same. For example, you start with one service, and if only that it like go through multiple cycle, when it hit like a certain quality, you roll it out, and then you scale it, and you scale it to the second services, you scale it to the third services, or you scale it from the services that implemented in one department into like many departments. So this is basically just a map, but what exactly behind it, I put it all here. I wouldn't go through it very detailed here because the time not permit, but I will highlight a few things. So first, strategize. Strategize is about identify the scope or what are the use cases that you will implement it if you want to implement it in your operations, right? So our guidance is that you define the priority use cases. So it must be visible, high friction, or mission critical. There are a few ways to look at it for you to pick out the right use case. You should estimate the impact. You should define the investment, and you secure buy-in and funding. Whether or not you are the board or whether or not the change come from top down or bottom up, you should define it and secure it, because it will make it easier for you to scale or to make decision later, right? So feel free to use the one pager to try to test it with different use cases and pitch the use case and expect outcomes across different departments to make decision on this. Second step is a development, which is the biggest, and it will happen in multiple iterations, right? It will go from design, which we will have the toolkit for the previous part, but we will have also build phase, which is build step, which is build up the workflow, execute among the different teams, and just tool, try to work in terms of like cultures and ways of working to support the new operating model. You will deploy in a controlled environment, limited scope to measure and test it. And after you have qualitative and quantitative feedback, you decide what you can improve, and you focus to improve that and launch it in the next time. So our from our experiment, our tips is that keep the iteration short, for 2 to 4 weeks. So in every iteration, when you go through all of these steps and scale out, and roll out or pilot it, do it in 2 or 4 weeks, depends on the scope, and focus on testing, because this is iteration is the quite kind of like the way that you experiment it, right? Focus on testing assumptions, not about like designing like a perfect process or perfect service right at the beginning. And when it hits like a certain quality that you can measure, you roll it out. And you can treat the rollout as the service too, like everything that needed for the user, for example, support, training, continuous improvement. There's someone which is the service owner will design it and try to support it along the way. So I want to like take a bit double click into the step two, because that's the most like complex, right? If you are managing the company more than 50 people, here's how we advise that you organize any transformation, actually any change management project, not only service-oriented ops design, or not only operational transformation, because I have led a lot of projects in, for example, like advanced data analytics or AI adoption in this way as well. So please don't aim for a robust or a final design right away, but you build a robust design cycle, and it's developed through multiple iterations. And imagine that you will have like performance or quality of your design and the time as a matrix or the chart here. And you will see that after every iteration, the performance will increase a bit. So our tips is that throughout your testing, you need to define the threshold to make decision. And this is very important because it keeps you focused on why you are doing all of these experiment. What do you want to see, right? You want to see if it works. You want to test certain assumption, etc. So when you have to make decision, you put it and you tie it to certain metrics. So for example, for the testing deployment, if it reach this result, you will make the decision for it to pilot in a wider scale, in a wider scope, or basically scale it. When it reached like this certain performance in scaling, you will make the decision to make the full rollout. That's for example. So this can be changed upon learning later, but it's very important to put it in the beginning so that it keeps you focused. It keeps you focused on learning from the result. It keeps you focused on improve the performance, and it keeps you focused in terms of why you do all of these experiments. So there are few things here in terms of transition and starter. I will get to that very quickly. But before we go into that, we just go through the how of service, design the service, or design the service-oriented operations, larger scale. Let me switch gear a bit and go into the system to show you what it exactly look like, to make it like really become reality, like become in real life, and not just like fluffy stuff that you can find anywhere, right? So let me share some example. It's just example of how it look like on our platform. Sorry, give me 1 second. Yes. So basically, this is the workflows app, and the objective of this is to manage the workflows. So it's very close to like processes, right? So let me take the example of this. This is order management process. And if you think of it as service, right? So how is it designed that it fits with service-oriented approach? One is that when you set up the whole workflow, you will need to define what is the input and the output. So for example, here, there are different stage. And in each stage, it had the output. If it meet the output quality, it will go into the next stage. So to measure of each part of the service is very easy. Each part of the service can belong to different team, or each stage here, it can be belong to different team. And in this way of structure, you can see that it consists different services like microservice, right? So this team, they will do the input order. After that, they will transfer to the next team to do the vendor sampling. After that, after they provide this service and hit the outputs, they will transfer to the next team to do the client finalization. So that's for one example. But those are the microservice, but you can understand the whole thing as the whole workflow as the big service as well, like a service system. So you can see here in the report, right? You can see what is the input and output of the whole funnel, how is the stage of like job status, whether or not it's late. So this is for like more on efficiency focus. You can see the input and output of each of the members or the workers here that work out through these jobs as well. So basically, that's a short like inspiration, right? That's how we design our process management or workflow management app. Another example here is we have the event management platform. So for example, all of the emails, all of the communication or your registration or your site that you register to this webinar is through our event management platform called Grow Suite. If anyone interested, you can contact our business consultant, or you can leave your information below. But basically, these follow service approach as well. So each type of our event, we will define at one service. We will set up, for example, the field, the form field, the registration preference, the webhooks, any advanced setting belong to this service. And then after that, we can measure the efficiency, or we can measure the impact, the ROI based on certain service. So that's just simple. It's also applied in our other apps. If there are certain like customer that we have in the room today, as you are familiar with, for example, like meetings, there are certain type of meeting that you can pack into the service. So later you can measure, you can have a clear view and a very clarity in terms of, for example, if you set up different meeting service, this is a sales service, this is a sales meeting, this is the demo meeting, this is the partner meeting, this is internal meeting, and it has different outcome or value to measure and different way to structure it. You will see how impactful or how efficient that you run those meetings. So those are the idea, just a quick idea of how it looks like. So it's not only the basically, it's not only the philosophy that we it's not only the philosophy that we consult our client to implement digitalization or tech tool adoptions in our service, but it's also the way that we implement and we build our product, because we have seen that it helps a lot of SME to have a clear view of how to organize all those tangled things in the operations. So hope it helps and provide a clearer way to look into operations. Now come back to our webinar a bit. There are a few other things before we come into Q&A, and I think we good in terms of time, right? So the next thing, and there are a few questions that we received on this, so that's why we want to include it in our presentation, is how to make the transition. So to basically very practical, there are a few things that we list out here. Of course, there are more, but it's just basically a simple guide for you to keep it. This is like kind of like a checklist. If you currently a department-based company and you want to look into service-oriented, right? You identify the department's role and function. Second is you remapping it. Basically, define the service of each department. You map it. You really think about whether you are like operation manager, the COO, or the CEO want to implement this. Sit with teams and really understand what each team actually deliver to others, because it's very like popular in the company, especially like when you reach like more than 50 people, right? You hit the point of from 50 people to like 200, 300. So you hit the point of, oh, there are team and there are multiple teams that said that, oh, we do client service. But if you ask like different team or even different people within the team, like they understand that differently. So that's where you can look into it and discuss with the team. You define accountability, you clarify dependency, inputs, output, expectation, and what is exactly in the design. I have a feedback that the screen is not on yet, so let me check a bit. Yeah, I hope this is good now. So after you do the mapping org-wise, you start with what we recommend earlier. You do the strategy, pick up use cases, start with the pilots, pick one or few areas to test out first to demonstrate the value before scaling and expanding. And throughout the socialization or those brainstorming, you can use the one page template that we provide earlier as well. Like start simple, very simple, focus on the value and the objective. So in terms of like transition, right? The first one that you should do is mapping and understanding how things are, and then pick one area to test, implement, experiment with it, and value demonstration. Those are the key things. In our guide, we also provide an appendix of service library mapped by key departments. We even have like as you can see, if there are certain clients here with us already, you can see in our platform, we have multiple template, right? For project, for workflows, you can see the template that we provided there as well, which is, that's what we see different companies successfully implement those as a first service design. of course, like a lot of company, after they use that template, they change it to fit with their operation, etc. But basically, with all the service here on the screen, we also have sample processes and how the value flow can be set up. So you can change it up later. But there is no point to like just share with you a bunch of documents that you won't implement right away. So I'm not including here. But if you want to look at it, or care about how it look on our system, feel free to tell and reach out to me or anyone in rework team. Last but not least, the very last one, just take 2 minutes here before we go into Q&A, is the starter implementation guide. So if this is something very new to your operations, and you want to introduce, and this is also applied with any change management as well, is that, okay, on the left-hand side is common challenges and how to tackle them, right? First one, resistant to change. Now, this can come from top down. If you are someone like, for example, department head or managers want to propose new things, or if you are in management team and you hit the resistance from the team below as well, it's very common. It's just the human nature, right? So our advice is that start with non-threatening internal services to show quick wins and build trust in terms of the new way of looking can be good and can be a refreshing way to see the value very quick. So unclear ownership is also a common pitfall. So in terms of even during pilot or after you design and roll out, make sure that the service ownership is like crystal clear. And after you make the clear ownership, you also should like empower them, with authority to add on, authority to plug in, to improve, etc. Or for example, like hiring people, making change of the process, dash like certain tools or templates or the old way, make sure you give them the authority too. Silo thinking, so this one can be fixed by the cross-functional mapping workshops. So it can be done by the one who will not execute that process or service. So make sure that you involve like the right stakeholder and make sure that they really understand the thinking and the language that we are doing. You can like show them and replay like this whole webinar. I'm also okay with that. I'm very happy with that as well. Among the relevant stakeholders, and that's very important. In terms of measurement, it's very common that people always like baseline metrics when they implement like new thing, especially regarding ops, right? So so it's important if you done the pilot, make sure that you record the input and outputs. So if you have rework or if you're thinking of like adopting rework, it's very easy. Everything is record, especially what you define is important metrics and when it happened, where it happened, etc. But if you don't have some tools or working operating platform, it's okay. Record it manually, because what important is you want to see if it works with your operations. You want to see the impacts. You want to see and show, so that you have to record it. And you refine it over time. You add in tool later. So last but not least, right? Tool overload and tech paralysis. If you want to introduce any tools, it's okay to use pen and paper first. It does not need to like have a big tool, even that if you're thinking about like AI adoption, right? All of these, basically tech is just to support the service improvement that you do. So that's why we said that service-oriented is the foundation. It's a foundation for any big change if you have the clear, well-defined service map, the later change will come in, and the whether or not you choose to adopt it is very easy. It's easy for implementation as well. So on the right-hand side is the key agenda for anyone who are in C-suite or in management team. You pick one to redesign. You utilize a template to socialize, to make sure that everyone on the same page in terms of what we are heading. You appoint and empower the service owner. You communicate and allow the communication flow very often. And you explain slowly. Once you see the value, you make the decision to scale up. So that's it. That's everything that I want to go through today. So we have a few minutes left. Let's go directly into Q&A. So please feel free to drop in your Q&A. I will tackle the question that sent to us first. So let me read out certain questions that we received beforehand. Meanwhile, if you have any question, feel free to drop in Q&A below. So one question that we received is, how can we apply raw AI from X and follow the Palantir approach in operations? So Grok AI is the AI chatbot from X, the company of Elon Musk, and Palantir approach. I'm guessing here is the data approach from the company from the US as well, Palantir. So basically, I understand here is the question is about how to apply explainable AI in operations, and how to apply the data-driven approach in decision making as well. So my short answer is, let me break into two, right? So explainable AIs, what we've shared in the webinar, service-oriented operation should serve as a foundation before any AI or Palantir-style deployment. So once you have the map, you define clear services, clear owner, input, output, feedback loops, it will be much easier to integrate, plug in AI, automate parts of your workflow, or layer tools like in Palantir, or layer any like other modeling or advanced analytic model as well. So once you build all of these in place, where outcomes are measurable, where you know teams and all the service provider, all the workflow, all the activities, you can design to fit in like certain part, test it exactly like how you implement and deploy like certain services. Second question we have here. Second question we have here is that one is how to identify inefficiency in streamline processes. Second is how we adopt ICT as a solution to the situation. So The first one, inefficiency and streamline processes. To connect with our webinar, right? If you frame operation in terms of service and you have the measurable input output, you can see or where are the pain points are. So for example, delays, or is confusion, or is handoff, or is the rework, reiteration of things. It's all like in the measurement that you have recorded, and then you define you have those pain points and you work out those pain points and design it and tackle it, whether it's like unclear ownership or the handoff delay or duplicated effort. It starts from there, right? So adopt ICT. My view is tech is very helpful, but it does not replace your operations. So ICT is not solution to the processes or operation. So only after you have very great clarity in terms of operation design or service map, depends on the approach you choose, very great clarity in terms of what actually needs improving, then you can improve it. So for example, once you map out the services, you can see and you can see where's the problem at and bring in the tools that solve specific problem. For example, if it's communication delay, you add in internal messaging tool. If it's poor tracking, you add in dashboard, you add in trackers, you add in project management tools. If it's like repeated, like request, delay, approval, etc., or repeat questions, for example, you add in AI or chatbot. So those are the example. One quick question, will the playbook will be emailed to us? Yes. All the material that I show, including the recording as well, we will send it after the webinar. One question we see here is from Miss Leah. When you say service, are you referring to it as opposed to good manufacturing? It's actually a more granular operation. Is it accurate? Yes, it's very accurate. Thank you, Ms. Lee, for your question. It's actually that's an accurate understanding. It's not the service in terms of like we think as business service, as opposed to good manufacturing, but it's basically think of it as the new way of looking business execution, like you said, more granular operation. So in business execution, certain stakeholder provide service to other stakeholder as well. So when you look into your operation in this way, you will much more focus on the value and what value that you provide to whom. So it's more user centricity as well. So those are just the basic shape. It still have processes. It still have certain handover, different team that implement it, but it provide a new lens to look into it and a new language as well. So for example, in rework in our company right now, if we have the delay in terms of like or like handling leads, for example, then we can clearly like see that who's provide that service, who is gonna like be impacted, and how we improve that kind of service. How do you measure outsourced service through the system? Oh, okay, let me read out loud the question. How do you measure outsourced service through the system? Because one of the slides state outsourced service without losing visibility. So first of all, that is the point in terms of modular. So if you make your service or your ops design modular, you can easily outsource certain part. So for example, in the example that I said earlier, in terms of handling lead, so handling lead or lead generation is a whole long funnel, depends on the company, right? So in certain company, there will be, let's say, For example, a team handle and qualify a large quantity of leads at the very beginning of the funnel after we generate that leads. Now, if you are clearly define it into one service, you can outsource it. For example, to also one beside like our internal team, we can outsource it to external co-vendor. We can outsource it to an AI. AI make the call and SDR call, for example. So that's what I mean is it make easier to outsource because it's a very contained unit that we can measure, we can manage. Now, how do we do it? Through our system. Basically, if you ask about rework, then we can show it like more details later in our one-on-one conversation, and we're happy to set that up. But basically, our system will have you to clearly define the service and have the measurement that fit with it for you to have the dashboard and the report. So I think that's the shorter answer. A question from Hazel. How does it differ from traditional process optimization? All right. Okay, I think it's also a good question. I think traditional process optimization focus on efficiency and especially the incremental gains within existing workflow. The service-oriented approach also bring in efficiency, but other benefit as well. And the key action that it takes is redefine operation, or is redefine how we look into operation, so that it shift in culture, it shift in the way that we focus. We not focus on activity, we focus on value, we focus on user. It's a sustainable way that the efficiency improvement can be introduced, can be tested, and can be improved, rather than a short-term fix. So I think I wouldn't say that process optimization is all short-term, but I think that's the clearest definition. Question from Aisha. Oh, thank you. It has been a very refreshing session. Looking forward to receive the deck and learn more about rework feature. Thank you. Thank Aisha. Let me quickly check here. I think we have a few other questions left. How cost-effective could rework be in comparison to the more traditional manual way of work? Communication through emails or chats. How cost-effective? The details formula maybe need to work it like directly with the gentleman who asked this question, and we're happy to do that. But basically, the cost effective that we bring is not, because of course that you have to make investment in terms of like tool adoption and in terms of implementation as well. But I think it's not about cost saving, it's about efficient. That's what we always talk about, like efficient, right? And efficient here, what does that mean? It make your operation, the value it bring is that it make your operation more efficient. It's basically that you don't have to manage like 10 group chats at the end of the month to really know what this metric is, but you only need to look at one dashboard. So that is the short answer in terms of how to make it efficient, and how a work operating platform will make it efficient for you, because you record things along the way as the execution happens. So you don't need to have someone to record the data and plug in some dashboard. That's one. That's in terms of like making data visible and recorded, right? And the second is after that, the pull in data or like the communication or the anything that happened, it show and it measure in the pre-bill or your bill as well, like in terms of dashboard or reports, so you can quickly see it. So I think basically it's about efficiency. There are a question in registration form. What metrics are important for measure the effectiveness of newly designed service? So we have included in the guide on this already, and it very depends from service to service. How does the service-oriented model scales as a company grow, particularly for rapid expanding startup? We actually implement it in our company as well. It's very clear. It's not to scale the whole model, but once you have your operation defined in the service map, you will know which one to scale. Like you scale certain unit of the service, or you scale the whole service. You scale in what scope, and what is the measurement that you want to look for. Because the service itself is still the same. The input output is already defined. So when you scale it out, you might scale the input and you expect the same efficiency. That means that the output will scale out like proportionally. For example, you know what to expect and to measure the change and the transition of the scaling more easily. Okay, I think because it's already 10 minutes over time, so I will take one last question, and then all of other questions, feel free to send it via email. How does AI play a part of your work in the future? Currently, I saw an example of creating a process flow through AI. Are there more ideas to help the user through the use of AIs, like automated correspondence when certain milestones are achieved? Thank you, Mr. VW. This is a very great question, and it has been on the top of our developers' mind for every meetings that we have. If you are a reward customer, you can see that we are very selective and very strategic in terms of introducing AI in our product as well, because we aim to improve and have enhance the operation and the business operations. So what AI in terms of what service can be introduced to help the service achieve better impact, are more efficient, etc. We will introduce it through our tests, and it's coming from the feedback from the customer as well. But basically, that's the view, like whether or not it's improved certain service and what service that it fit. As you can see, that a lot of platform today, for example, like note-taking platform or emailing platform, etc., they have certain AI tool, but we identify it as tool to create content, generate content, because Gen AI right now we can like easily plug in through API, and we just like buy the token from like ChatGPT or certain platform like Rock, as DeepSeek, etc. But the thing is, what they do actually, other platform, what they're trying to do is that they create the prompt template in the middle, ask you to put in that, and they also put that in like Gen AI model, like LLM. We see that as that's something that we might introduce in the future as well. But right now, we believe that everyone can do that with the Gen AI tool that they have in their business. It's not critical, it's not strategic right now. We are working on certain application of AI in business operations and introduce it in our platform. As you can see, for example, how to create tasks, how to create a sample workflows, how to, and maybe in the future, that's a very great idea, Miss or Mr. BW, like handle milestones, handle notifications, handle like what's important and what not important in terms of communication in business. Those are a very interesting use case that we are currently working on. Anyway, our time has reached. So thank you, everyone. Any comments or any questions that we have been able to answer within time, we will surely get back to you via email. I think one last question is please drop in your emails or respond to the poll that we will quickly put up right now in terms of whether or not you want to rework demo. We will reach out to you and set up like after this meeting. Here on the screen, you can see that the follow-up consultation. Anyone, please, if you want one-on-one demo for rework, you can use it as a request, and we will certainly reach back to you after the meeting. And that's it. That's for today. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and see you in the next webinar. Thank you so much, and have a great Thursday.